Now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for waiting a few minutes while we were working through some technical difficulties. We'd like to thank you guys for joining us for today's webinar brought to you by the ESA Sales and Marketing Professionals. And today's event is sponsored by Revenue. I'm Erica Wood, Chair of the ESA Sales and Marketing Professionals. I just want to go over a few housekeeping notes really quick before we get started. All callers will be muted for the duration of the webinar, so be sure that your question or chat log to submit questions, and all questions will be addressed at the end of the webinar. In addition, a recording of today's webinar and a copy of the PowerPoint presentation will be available in the SMP Resource Library on esaweb.org. CE credits are available for those that attended today. So please check the chat log shortly for instructions to request your accreditation form. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our SMP sponsor again, Revenue, and allow Omar, the VP of National Accounts with Revenue, to say a few words. Omar, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Erica, and thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I appreciate the opportunity. I met several of you at the conference last year, and through that conference I talked a little about Revenue being able to support you with different marketing needs. And I thought with the topic being today that David's going to go after retargeting, I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to not only be a partner for you, but also provide you with a key tool. So just quickly, if you can see my screen here, Revenue is a digital marketing tool that helps you with running email campaigns, doing Facebook or social media, banner ads, or search, have campaigns there for you. And for those of you that are participating today, we have a special campaign that was created with the ESA that we'd like to offer for you at no charge. You just have to log on to the account. You can contact myself by email or by phone, and you'd be able to run the email, place the Facebook app on your page, or place a web button on your website as well, or just see the campaign and see if it's anything you're interested in. So that's my way of saying thank you all to those of you on the call and to ESA for the fantastic partnership, and I appreciate all your support going forward. David, I'd like to hand it over to you and to Erica. Thank you very much.
Omar, thanks again. Today's webinar is on retargeting, optimizing your online advertising, and it will be presented by David with Summit Media Group. To give you a little background on David, he previously worked for Cox Media in Richmond with their digital sales strategy, and David continues to set the direction and vision for the digital sales effort at Summit Media based out of Richmond. He's passionate about the relationship between effective traditional marketing strategy and digital marketing channels. David understands how complex digital marketing channels can be simplified and applied to everyday business problems. He's an expert in display advertising, retargeting, online video, search marketing, mobile marketing, online creative strategy, online campaign ROI, Google Analytics, and conversion funnel models. David, I'm going to go ahead and turn it on to you and turn it on over to you, and you can teach us all about retargeting today.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you guys for inviting me and for having me in. I'm excited to talk with the group. And though I've met none of you, hopefully you guys find this to be hopefully you find this to be helpful. You know, when we talk about retargeting, and that was a wonderful introduction, and I appreciate it, Erica. And the point that I want to make before we get started is, as online marketing and online channels evolve and develop, one thing that's really important to remember is that while the methods or the channels might change, age-old marketing tactics and age-old marketing strategy doesn't effectively change. A good message reaching the right people at the right times with a good frequency is the core of any good marketing effort, whether it's online or broadcast or print or direct mail or whatever you're going to do. All of that still comes into play. So we're going to talk about some things that are new or newer maybe new, very new to some people, but at the end of the day, you'll find that most of what I talk about applies to the same traditional marketing strategy. A little bit of background, just to kind of give some color to why we do any of these things. We believe that good marketing is about message, reach, and frequency, and that broadcast works together with search, works together with display, works together with all of the digital marketing efforts. And at the end of the day, we do it because that's where the audience is. Because there were 3.3 billion searches on Google yesterday. Because 1 in 3 car buyers uses dealer websites these days. Because we spend an average of 5 hours and 16 minutes on the internet. 44 billion videos were watched. At the end of the day, it's become prolific in our day, and not just the young audience, but the baby boomers are one of the fastest growing audience of online consumers. Business-to-business efforts are increasingly more powerful online. So where the audience goes, we believe so should the advertisers. And as that shift happens, we want to make sure we go with the audience. So just like radio, television, magazines, etc., websites, all of those that you see up here, produce audiences. And audiences are ultimately what we advertise to. And understanding the audience that you want to reach and understanding the audience that you feel is valuable is the key to any good advertising. So how does that tie into retargeting? Well, we believe that the most effective marketing tool that any business has is their website. It's the #1 most known audience entity that you can develop. Right? So the people who go to your website have self-selected. The problem is most businesses don't use the website properly for marketing. They assume the website is the end result, and it's not. The end result is actually the conversion action, whatever that might be, whether it's a phone call or a form fill or a request an estimate. That's ultimately the end result. The visit to the website is just a means to that end. So most businesses allow their prospects, their web traffic, to leave and then hope, fingers crossed, that they come back later. That's the wrong approach. That's not managing your audience. So what's the right approach? Well, it begins with this idea, this notion that you invest every day to prepare your market for the products that you offer. If you're a Ford dealer, you have a great-looking storefront. If you're a security business, you might have a storefront if that's the market you're in. You might have invested tons of money in signs or a showroom and employees. They all talk to their friends. They all talk to their colleagues. You have a sales force. If you do any broadcast or external marketing, community involvement, website investments, maybe you do some paid search. Google organic results are constantly sending traffic to the website. A good business is now active in social media. Well, all those things have a cost, whether it's a time cost, an opportunity cost, or a fiscal cost. And so at the end of the day, a site visitor is no accident. You have worked very, very hard to bring that visitor to your website. And it's the retargeting piece that allows that investment to pay off at a higher level. That's because of the frequency. It's very difficult. It's very easy to get reach on the internet. It's very easy to get reach. You can buy broadcasts. You can do all sorts of things. But who you apply your frequency to is the key. And frequency is ultimately the key driver of conversions on a website. And we talked about conversions before. Those are those actions, those measurable actions that happen after a visitor gets to the website. So 75% of converters visit a site at least 3 times before converting. Said another way, 90+% of visitors don't convert on their first visit or on any visit. So by encouraging repeat visits, what you're effectively doing is you're increasing the likelihood of a conversion. And retargeting applies that frequency to that self-selected best prospect. That is the visitor who has said, I'm interested in what you have to offer, so much so that I'm willing to explore your website, and now they need that encouragement to return. So we call retargeting audience management because it's about understanding and managing the audience that you have. So how would you define that? Some people might say it's the practice of identifying your current website visitors through tracked cookies for remessaging at a later time with online ads. It's a fairly complex but very descriptive definition of what retargeting is. Maybe it's the practice of applying frequency with your message to the lost traffic when they leave your site. Maybe it's the practice of annoying people until they either give up or give in. One way or the other, and we hope that's not the case, but one way or the other, however you define it, people are busy. They're easily distracted. They're comparison shopping. Kids, work, life, etc. happen. They need to be encouraged to come back and take the action that you want them to take. Okay, so I understand we have folks out there from various market sizes, and so going back to the 101 of retargeting, here's how it works. You visit a website. Erica, thank you for letting me use your website. You go to a website. You explore the website. A piece of code pops up on the screen, or excuse me, a piece of code is working in the background that tags your website browser, Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer, etc. It puts a little cookie that's a trackable piece of information on your browser so that the next time you go to a website, that ad is waiting for you. So if you left for a reason of distraction, if you left for some reason that you couldn't complete an action that you wanted to take, here's a reminder down the road that, you know what, I did want to schedule a consultation with American Fire Security. So without getting too deep into the technical side of it, websites serve ads. They have what are called ad servers. Those ad servers are constantly communicating with a retargeting company, whether it's us or I guess, Revenue or whoever. They have ad servers. Those ad servers are constantly making requests. And what basically happens is that CNET's ad server says, American Fire and Security, you have one of your visitors on our website. Would you like to show them your ad? We say yes, that ad shows up. This happens in a millisecond. And at the end of the day, it helps to bring people back to the website. So we like to quantify the value of retargeting because at the end of the day, everyone is in business to create revenue. So we look at a site like Hooked on Phonics, and we're talking about 33,000 monthly unique visitors and maybe a 2% conversion or success rate on sale. That's 98% of traffic that doesn't convert. So if you're able to recapture 1% of that traffic through a retargeting message, that's 330 additional sales. Based on their average ticket, that's ultimately a 50% increase in revenue. So if you, in any of your websites, are able to recapture 1 or 2% of your prospective customers through a retargeting channel, that would likely mean a significant improvement in revenue. Okay, so there's oftentimes a negative stereotype or a negative connotation that goes with retargeting. It's annoying, it's bothersome, people must hate that, it's Big Brother, it's all of those things. But there should be some comfort in the numbers that I'm going to show you guys. Retargeted ad buyers know that they're being retargeted, and ultimately, they don't care. Okay, so going based on this notion that 90 to 95% of online traffic doesn't convert on the first visit. 30% of those surveyed had a positive or very positive reaction to retargeted ads. Those are the folks that they go to Zappos, they walk away, they come back, and they appreciate that that pair of shoes they were looking at is right there on that ad, reminding them of, I didn't mean to do that. 11% felt negatively about them. Probably 11% of people feel negatively about everything, print, broadcast, what have you. 59%, actually the largest percentage, had a completely neutral reaction. I don't care either way, it's fine, it doesn't bother me. Said another way, 89% had either a positive or neutral reaction to being retargeted. And if you go a step further, there's a Criteo study that shows that 70% of retargeted traffic are more like, or excuse me, retargeted traffic is 70% more likely to buy, and they spend 50% more money. So not only is it 89% representing the positive or neutral reaction to it, but it's actually got some very specific correlation to the likelihood to buy and, in fact, the amount of money that's being spent. So aside from the obvious ability to bring back visitors and improve conversion rates and improve traffic and things of that nature, there are some really important back-end benefits to retargeting. So you've got frequency, you've got the ability to segment your audience, you've got the ability to collect data on your audience in some pretty meaningful ways, and we'll show you in a little bit. And then you've got the ability to track conversions and how much the retargeting is actually doing for your program, or excuse me, for your sales. So we'll start with frequency. You know, when we do business with clients from e-commerce to major universities to local service companies, and at the end of the day, not everything, retargeting was developed originally for the e-commerce world. And it was about, you wanted to buy this item online, you had forgotten, you abandoned your cart, click here to complete that purchase. And that's great. And for e-commerce, there's a very specific and direct connection. When you're talking to a business, and yours fit into this category more than into the e-commerce side, but there's this idea of brand building, and the idea that frequency, aside from just click to take this action, frequency helps to build brand. It helps to encircle that target or that prospect with the message of why they should do business with you. So when your product is more than just a click to buy now, you want to retarget for the purposes of building brand. So for that purpose, you can retarget with video. You can take video, pre-roll 15 or 30-second repurposed TV commercials or specifically developed online retargeting commercials, and you can run them in videos online. You can retarget with display advertising. This is prolific. This is what most folks are most aware of. And you can also retarget on Facebook via the Facebook Exchange, Facebook Marketplace. So when you go onto Facebook, those ads that you see on the right-hand column of your Facebook page can be retargeting ads based on the sites that you visited. And by doing it this way, what you allow yourself to do is encircle, again, that prospect with not just a click-through display ad, but also a video message that gets the benefit of sight, sound, and motion, or a Facebook message that lets them know you're kind of everywhere. The other piece of this is the idea of segmenting your audience. This is the client, this is an e-commerce client that we work with, and there are some very sophisticated ways of segmenting audience via dynamic ads or personalized ads, and that's great if that's necessary. And you've all seen that, I'm sure. You go to a website, Sears, and you're looking at a refrigerator, and the next thing you know, you see that ad with that refrigerator, that exact model in the ad. That's a personalized or dynamic retargeting message. But it also applies where you don't need a specific item. You may just need the specific category that that individual is interested in. We work with some major state universities in Virginia, and we do campaigns where they might want their MBA audience to see one ad, and they might want those who are interested in a master's in real estate to see another ad, and that's audience segmentation. But at its core, if you come to this website and you explore freshwater fishing, you'll see an ad that looks on the left with freshwater fishing messages. If you look at fly fishing, you'll see an ad with fly fishing gear. If you look at hunting, etc., and ladies' clothing, etc. The call to action is effectively the same. Internet orders, flat rate shipping. But at the end of the day, the images in the ad are most relevant to the specific category that you were looking at. There's some great data out there. I'm not going to talk about specifics, but talk about how segmented ads improve performance of a retargeting campaign if necessary. So in your context, you might have, for example, corporate security and home security, and you want to segment your messaging based on visitors that are based on their interest categories. Talking about data collection and audience management, we can take the data from the retargeted ads that we've served, and you can build a model of your audience. And this is an example of a data model from a camping, an RV retailer in Atlanta, where we took the traffic that visited the site, we took the retargeting, and I'm going to say away from the technical as best I can, we took the retargeting pixels from all of the visitors that came to the site. We matched it up against all the other data on those people's browsers. And we were able to build a demographic and psychographic profile based on indexes, and that's what the value on the right-hand column is, of what the typical site visitor looks like. And this data can inform future campaigns, whether it's broadcast, et cetera, or other outreach online campaigns. The other thing you can do is simply to take the sites that your visitors come from, because we know where they go when they leave, because you're serving ads to them, and you can then build what's called a lookalike network or a lookalike model. And you can run additional ads on those same sites under the assumption that birds of a feather flock together. So in this example, an automotive client goes to a website, you pull a list of content, you pull a list of the websites that that person goes to, and you're able to market specifically on those websites. And then the third or fourth piece here, and this is important, is that it allows for a high degree of reporting on conversions. And some best practices here, you have digital campaigns always work best with some sort of conversion strategy. So if you go back to the American Fire example, you had a request and estimate form. Well, that's the most likely conversion action to be tracked. So that's ultimately driving traffic to that end is going to be the plan. Retargeting is typically going to drive the largest volume of conversions. You want to keep the strategy simple. You want to make sure that the visitor understands what they're trying to do when they get to the website. You want to use what are called UTM codes, or you want to tag your click-throughs with proper codes to assign the traffic in Google Analytics. You want to use landing pages to test the performance. And you want to make sure ultimately that your Google Analytics is set up properly with goals, so that you know these are the things that I want visitors to do when they get to my site. And then in Analytics, with the goal set up, you're able to see how many times and by whom those goals were accomplished. And then you can start to test. You can test your landing pages. You can test your ads. You can do all the things that help to optimize the performance of your campaigns. Okay, so how would you get started in a retargeting program? Let's say you were going to do it yourself. So the first thing that you would want to do is you'd want to determine your overall site traffic. You want to determine how many different offerings you sell, and if you have enough audience for each in order to segment your messaging. I put in there a 500 visit minimum. That's a good starting point. Certainly if you have more, then you'll have more impressions. You take those reachable visitors and you multiply it by a frequency goal, 15, 18, 20. That's going to give you an impression goal. You take that impression goal, you do some math on it. It's going to estimate your cost once you understand your cost per thousand. You set up some code, which is fairly simple to do. Most every webmaster we've ever come across has been able to do this without any struggle. And then, of course, you want to determine your value per conversion. Understanding the value of the conversion helps you understand your ROI. And then, at the end of the day, you want to develop a meaningful call to action on your retargeting ad. A couple different examples of how probably an outreach ad might differ from a retargeting ad. Once you know that a visitor is a retargeted visitor, you can message to them with a different kind of urgency, with a different kind of call to action. So while you might fish for new visits with something about downloading an ebook, or perhaps looking at inventory on a real estate site, you want to encourage them to take the next step with your retargeting message. So RSVP to an information session, or view this month's incentive on a real estate site, or enroll or start an application for a university. And then, of course, once you've exhausted the opportunity with your current site traffic, there are opportunities to expand beyond that, and you can start to develop programs based on what you've learned from your retargeting with things like keyword targeting, where you're able to reach out to individuals based on the keywords on the content of the websites that they're looking at. You're able to target behaviorally, so you can target business types behaviorally. You're able to target household income level on a variety of different online behaviors, targeted at specific people based on their online behavior. you can now target with IP address. As a replacement for the old direct mail model, you're able to know what address you want to target, convert that to an IP address, and target that household through their IP address or through the portal of their through the portal to the internet in the home. And again, video. And at the end of it all, the key is to make sure that you understand what's working, what's not working. So you can measure the audience by size, how many unique visitors you've brought to the website, the number of impressions that you served, activity by hour, day, or week, engagement by click-through engagement, by conversion tracking, and ultimately you can start to measure additional e-commerce if that's relevant, or just standard conversions via form completes, thank you page views, things of that nature. That's it. Any questions?
Okay. Yeah, David, we've had a few questions kind of funnel in.
Okay.
Okay. The first question is, how much traffic do I need to get started with a retargeting program?
Good question. It's, on the one hand, any traffic at all is worth retargeting. On the other hand, the ad networks and the various platforms that run retargeting programs typically are going to need a minimum of, say, 1,000 reachable visitors on any given segment. So as long as you have either 1,000 visits a month, unique visits a month, or you retarget for more than 90 days and can collect 1,000 reachable visitors, you can run a retargeted program.
Okay. And I personally kind of have a follow-up question to that. If the companies don't have whatever 1,000 minimum users or 500 minimum users, what would you suggest that they do to kind of get to that point, to get to the point that retargeting can really work for them?
Well, you've got a couple of different options. Depending on the industry, search is kind of the easiest low-hanging fruit to bring traffic in. Again, that audience is currently searching with keywords that are relevant to your business. So it's, home security systems, security for the home, things of that nature. You can use that to kind of scoop off the low-hanging fruit, so to speak, for traffic. You also have some more sophisticated approaches, display marketing, IP targeting, some of the things that we spoke about. Search is really a good place to start as a cornerstone of any online program.
Okay. Okay. And just a reminder to everyone, please submit your questions in the chat box on the side of your screen, and we'll try to get them all answered for you. Here's another question. Is there a way to stop retargeting a visitor once they're in the system?
There is. There are a couple of different ways that can be accomplished. The first thing is you can set a time limit on the length of time that a cookie, the retargeting cookie that we spoke about, stays on someone's computer. So it expires after 30, 60, 90 days, after 14 days, and at that point, until they revisit the site, they'll no longer see your ad. You can set a frequency cap on your retargeting message so that you don't hit any one individual IP address more than, say, 15 or 20 times, under the assumption that if they haven't acted again to come back to the site, they're not interested in the moment. And then the third way that you can stop is you can set what's called a conversion pixel on your conversion action. So on the thank you page of your request a quote form, you put an additional pixel that registers the conversion and removes the retargeted pixel. So those are the kind of the three ways that you can do that.
Okay. And how will a company know that that their retargeting efforts are actually working?
Well, the first and easiest way is you set conversion codes up on the actions that you want taken. So there are conversions that occur as a result of a click on an ad, click-through conversions. If someone sees an ad, clicks on that ad, and then takes the action on the same visit. And there are conversions that occur after someone's been exposed to an ad called a view-through conversion, where they come to the website, are exposed to your retargeting ad, and then navigate back to the site through some other means and convert. That person is registered as a view-through conversion. And those things are tracked fairly simply in retargeting programs.
Okay. Okay. And how soon should companies see results with their retargeting efforts? You know, people always want results right away.
Of course, tomorrow. And actually, and what's nice about retargeting is once you collect enough audience to get a fairly robust program, and that's depending on the size of the current audience, you should start seeing results fairly quickly. Within the first month, you should see a baseline of what you're going to get on the retargeting, and then of course you can optimize and improve as you go. But it's not out of the question to see results fairly quickly.
Okay. Okay, and another question just rolled in. Do you have to have an e-commerce site for retargeting to be effective?
No, not at all. Not a requirement. As a matter of fact, it's the retargeting method that we talked about today is in large part not meant for e-commerce. It's meant for everyday businesses. Any site, yep, I would say that any site, or maybe that was Jacqueline, any site that has some sort of conversion action is worth retargeting.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. And a question just came in. Do you get to choose what sites that you retarget on, or is that kind of selected for you?
It's a good question. Within certain limits, yes, you do want to choose. For example, we run a managed site list of, say it's 10,000 websites that have been scrubbed and that are regularly looked at to make sure that they're not running on really controversial sites. But the notion of retargeting, or the nature of retargeting, is that where the visitor goes, the ad goes. So the only way your ad is going to show up on a questionable site is if your visitor goes to a questionable site and is therefore less likely to be offended. Okay. They're there to begin with. But yes,
okay.
On balance, you can kind of within a framework say, look, we want to run on quality sites. We don't want to run on terrible sites.
Right, right. And is retargeting more cost effective if the campaign is ran on sites that maybe aren't as popular? I mean, versus going to like CNN.com versus our local newspaper.
Sure. Not really, in that typically, and there are a variety of different retargeting platforms out there. You can do performance-based platforms where you're literally only paying per click. And the problem with those is that the quality of the sites that it runs on is lower because the company they're not worried about getting good impressions. And since so much of what retargeting isn't just a direct click action, but getting exposure on those sites like CNN that have nice-looking sites, that have nice-looking ad placement, and give your ad a better chance of being seen, that's going to improve the ability for those view-through conversions that we were talking about. So the way we do retargeting, it's flat cost per 1,000 based, in which case, no, it doesn't work in that way. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. We just had another question come in. What is the best means of target advertising for a small business?
That's like a landmine. The best means for targeted advertising for a small business, I guess it depends on the type of small business that you are and the market that you're in. I certainly think search is a very effective means to reach only a certain segment of the market, but search doesn't truly build brand in a way that you want it to. We actually have advertisers where they can do search all day long, But if you're not doing something that's going to develop your brand or your why buy from me message, then search is only going to be so effective. We're finding a lot of results, a lot of success with IP targeting in certain business categories where you can market to specific addresses within a market, and if you're a real estate business, that's a great way to target, say, specific regions of your market by household income or things of that nature. So the best I can say, not knowing the general tenor of a specific business, search is a great place to start. Display is a great way to build brand to a targeted audience, and then retargeting should be the cornerstone of any online marketing. And understanding that you guys are in the securities business, I think that search, display, and retargeting are a great place to start. Search is also very expensive, and in some cases more costly than display, especially in home security. You could be looking at upwards of $10 to $30 per click. So it's tough to answer that generally.
Okay. And the last question so far that we have is, how often should your call to actions change so that your visitors don't see the same thing every time? They give this.
That's a great question. The rule of thumb is you might want to change your call, depending on how much traffic you have, you might want to change your call to action every month. You might want to change it once a month. You could change it as often as weekly. And the other thing that you can do that we'll often do is we will A/B test, or we will run 2 ads simultaneously with similar calls to action with maybe a different offer to see what offer is getting the most interest. Then that allows you to optimize towards that call to action. So there you go.
Okay. And one more really quick question. About how much does a retargeting campaign typically cost a company?
Again, it depends on the size of the amount of traffic that you have. A company that has more traffic is going to spend more to reach that traffic. But depending on the size, you could be starting at $1,000 a month, and you can go upwards of $10,000 plus. Again, it's tough to say without knowing the traffic, but yeah, you could run a program for $1,000 a month.
Okay. All right. Well, David, I want to thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for the informative content. I know that I learned a lot today.
I hope so.
I'd like to remind. Oh, no, go ahead.
I appreciate it very much, and thank you.
Okay. I'd like to remind everyone that a recording of the webinar will be available in the SMP Resource Library at esaweb.org, and that CE credits are available for the webinar upon request. Also, we encourage you all to keep the conversation going by joining SMP on LinkedIn and Facebook if you haven't already done so. And please make plans to attend the ESA Leadership Summit to fuel your company's growth. The summit will be held on January 19th through the 22nd in Orlando, Florida. It offers the opportunity to link up with other industry professionals, learn from experts outside of the security industry, and your company with additional takeaways. Visit esa-summit.com for more information. Once again, we thank you for participating in today's webinar brought to you by the ESA Sales and Marketing Professionals and sponsored by Revenue. So thanks, everybody.